Today I'm boarding Amtrak's longest train, the Texas Eagle. I'll be traveling more than 2,700 miles across 7 states, all by train, for 4 days and 3 nights. So come with me as we take Amtrak's Texas Eagle route from Los Angeles, California to Chicago, Illinois. All aboard! Our trip begins today in the historic Los Angeles Union Station in downtown LA. This place was built in 1939, and the station has been the backdrop for a lot of television shows and movies over the years. And from the beginning, it has maintained this beautiful Spanish and Art Deco architecture. The waiting area in this iconic station is almost as lush and comfortable as your living room, and it features several restaurants, a convenience store, and a luxury lounge for first class passengers. Our journey on the Texas Eagle will take us nearly 2,700 miles across 7 different states, taking nearly 66 hours. That's 3 nights and 4 days, covering about three-quarters of the United States. Tonight, we're going to board the Texas Eagle at about 10 p.m. for the first segment of our trip, and we'll arrive at our first major station stop in Tucson, Arizona, first thing tomorrow morning. But before we climb on board, I want you to take a minute to subscribe to our channel. Now, there's no cost to subscribe. It just guarantees that you won't miss out on any of our future travel videos. And don't forget to leave your comments. I love hearing from our friends and viewers and letting me know what you think. The boarding area for all trains in the Los Angeles Union Station is in a covered terminal. So all you have to do is just grab your luggage, make your way down to the loading platform to your assigned car. There's no TSA lines, there are no major boarding lines. You just jump on the train and find your seat. And Amtrak seating is very spacious. They recently upgraded all new comfortable wide leather seats with lots of legroom. I am about 5'10" and I have plenty of space to stretch out and stow away my luggage under the seats. Every seat even has its own electrical outlet, and so you can plug your cell phone, your laptop, or your tablet. And seats easily recline, almost like your lazy boy back home, complete with a footrest and room to completely stretch out for a relaxing ride. We finally made it to Tucson. We made a number of stops overnight along the way, but our first major stop this morning is in Tucson, Arizona. And it's a little bit after 8 a.m. Mountain Time. And the stop here in Tucson will take about 45 minutes. That will give them a chance to refuel the train, change the crew, resupply the train, and it also gives passengers a chance to get off and get some fresh air and stretch your legs a bit. Can't do that on an airplane. Getting back on board, we begin our journey across the desert. We're going to be crossing the rest of Arizona, New Mexico, and finally into El Paso, Texas, at El Paso's Union Station. After a full night on the train and most of the next day, we finally arrive in El Paso's Union Station around 3:15 this afternoon. It was a journey of more than 800 miles, and this beautiful station was built in 1903. It's seen millions of passengers come through. It's one of the few stations in Texas that had a Harvey House. Now, Harvey House was a combination of a hotel and a restaurant that was just made for travelers on the train in the early 1900s. In fact, Fred Harvey contracted with several rail lines around the country that were open to catering to the needs of their passengers. Now, you might remember the old hit musical with starring Julie Garland. It was called The Harvey Girls. It was about a girl that worked in one of these restaurants. And these restaurants and hotels were very popular during World War II. They served the needs of the traveling soldiers. There were several of them in Texas, including one in Amarillo and one here in El Paso, and you can still tour the locations. But this one in El Paso is the only one that has remained active as a station. And no trip to El Paso train station is complete without a visit with Juanita, the burrito lady. Juanita makes some of the most delicious burritos. Everybody's encouraged to jump off and grab a couple of burritos. My favorite was the bean and brisket. I can still taste it. It was so good. The next stage of our trip will take me across the vast Texas West, taking me near the Big Bend and ending up in Del Rio, Texas, right in the middle of the night on the Mexico border. In fact, at one point, we were so close to the Mexican border that I got a text in the middle of the night saying, "Welcome to Mexico." I guess my carrier thought I had crossed the border and my phone was pinging off of a tower somewhere in Mexico. The stop in Del Rio was in the middle of the night and just long enough to pick up a few new passengers. And then we were off to San Antonio. We arrived in San Antonio around 5 a.m. Yeah, that's in the morning. And the station in San Antonio is right downtown. It's actually within walking distance of the Riverwalk. And something unique takes place at this point. Our train actually will divide into two trains. One part of the train will head on east to Houston and finally to New Orleans, but my part of the train will continue north toward Dallas and Chicago. It's kind of like playing musical trains, and they move the cars around to form two different separate trains. And while all this is taking place, passengers can stay on the train, get a little shut eye, or get off the train to stretch their legs and take in the sights. But at 5 a.m. in the morning, there wasn't a lot to see besides the station lobby. Our next major stop on the line is Fort Worth, Texas, at the Fort Worth Central Station. This is a little bit of a longer break because some of the passengers are connecting with Amtrak's Heartland Flyer. The Flyer is a train that goes from Fort Worth all the way up to Oklahoma City. And then we're off on a short trip from Fort Worth Central Station across the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex to the Dallas Union Station. Now, if you're already in this area and you want to travel between these two cities, you can take Amtrak's nonstop service from one city to the other, or you can take the Trinity Rail Express. Now, that's a local commuter line between the two cities, and it makes several stops along the way, including one stop halfway in between near Dallas Fort Worth Airport. Now, if you're a history buff like me, I want you to pay close attention as we make our approach into Dallas Station. Check out the red brick building on the left. That's the book depository building where Lee Harvey Oswald fired those fatal shots at JFK in 1963 in Dealey Plaza. Some of you might be wondering, where are we? I know we're in Dallas, but where in Dallas? Well, look around. Does anything look familiar? Yep, that's the landmark Reunion Tower, the most iconic structure in downtown Dallas. And I hear there's a great restaurant at the top of the tower that serves an awesome Sunday brunch. The Dallas station is an older facility, and it really is in need of updating, but the staff there was tremendous. They were great at getting people organized, very friendly and helpful. And by the way, if you ever have a layover here at this station or you're down visiting Dealey Plaza in that area, I would highly recommend Cindy's New York Deli right across the street. They make a mean pastrami on rye. And after a delicious lunch in downtown Dallas, we're off for an overnight trek through East Texas, Arkansas, and Missouri. We're going to make stops in towns like Marshall, Texas, Longview, Texas, Texarkana, Little Rock, Arkansas, and Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Finally, tomorrow morning, we will arrive in St. Louis, Missouri. And along the way, we're going to go through several major national forests and state parks, a lot of unpopulated forest lands, sometimes reaching speeds up to 110 miles an hour. St. Louis is our first major stop this morning before crossing over into Illinois. This view will kind of give you an idea of just how big this Texas Eagle train really is. There are several passenger cars, a couple of sleeper cars, a dining and cafe car, and of course, a crew car with two big engines. St. Louis is a place where they change the crew, refuel the train, resupply the train, and take on quite a few new passengers. It's also a great place to get off the train and get some fresh morning air. As we finally pull away from the St. Louis station, no doubt you'll begin to recognize a few notable landmarks. The first one is the Busch Stadium. That's home to the Major League Baseball team, the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't know if you can make it out or not, but if you look along the outside of the stadium, there are some beautiful shrubbery there. Those are Anhauer bushes. Wait for it. Some of you will get it. Now, I'm sure you will recognize the St. Louis Gateway Arch, the gateway to the west. At 630 feet, this is the world's largest and tallest arch. The arch was constructed in 1965 as a monument to the U.S. westward expansion. It represents the pioneering spirit of men and women who settled the West. And finally, we come to the mighty Mississippi. We cross the dividing line between east and western United States. This river is the longest river in North America, traveling over 2,300 miles from Minnesota all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. Leaving the Mississippi River behind, we enter into the state of Illinois. This final leg of our trip will be from all the way from the south to the northern end of the state of Illinois. Miles and miles of farmland. We'll be passing through some of the small towns of southern Illinois and even through the state capital of Springfield. That's the home of Abraham Lincoln. And ultimately, we'll be making our way into the outskirts of the Windy City itself, Chicago. Well, we've finally reached the end of the line for the Texas Eagle. We've traveled together for over 2,700 miles. We've crossed over 7 states. We've traveled 4 days and 3 nights from Los Angeles, California, all the way to Chicago. And now we're here. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the trip, watching my trip as much as that I enjoyed taking the trip. And I'm going to challenge you. Next time you think about taking a trip, instead of flying or driving, think about taking the train. And don't just think about the destination, think about the journey. Getting there is half the fun. I'll see you on our next trip. All aboard.